My younger sister suddenly stopped paying attention to Xiao Jingyun. No longer clinging to him. No longer thinking of him. With a cold face, she declared resolutely, "This lifetime, I'd rather die than love you again." Xiao Jingyun went from disdain to unease. Finally, he panicked. "The 8th day of next month isn't a good day. Let's postpone the wedding." Before I could speak, he waved his hand to cut me off. "It's not like I'm not marrying you. Can't you even wait a few months?" I stared at the marriage contract he'd torn to shreds and fell silent. I only wanted to remind him that I had already reached the age of marriage. If I didn't marry, I would have to enter the palace for the imperial selection. The imperial selection? Turns out I didn't need to remind him. Xiao Jingyun's entourage had always been meticulous. He scoffed, "Who in the capital doesn't know Yuji is mine? How could His Majesty select her for the palace? Enough nonsense. Alwan must be waiting impatiently." His footsteps hurried away. I gripped the tabletop. But my strength failed me. I collapsed onto the floor. Xiao Jingyun had gone to find Yuan again. Ever since Yuan fell into the water 3 months ago, she'd become a different person. She no longer clung to Xiao Jingyun. And Xiao Jingyun, too, had changed. He began to care for her, to court her favor. Now he was even delaying our wedding for her sake. "Young lady, what is this?" Qing Xin entered, her face filled with astonishment. Scattered across the floor were fragments of paper. The marriage contract between Xiao Jingyun and me. When I was 13, unable to wait for my coming-of-age ceremony, Xiao Jingyun had asked my father for my hand in marriage. He had written the contract himself. Stroke by stroke. The wedding date was meticulously calculated by him. Not too early, lest I miss home. Not too late, lest he grow impatient. It had to be an auspicious day, blessing our union for 100 years. Growing old together. Yet just now. His handsome brows knitted together. His face brimming with impatience. "It's just a marriage contract. Tear it up and rewrite it." He tore it to shreds with his own hands. "Young lady, I'll go fetch the master." I grasped Xin's hand, shaking my head with a soft laugh. Can a father truly turn back the heart of one who has changed their mind? And besides, father knows full well about Xiao Jingyun and Yuan. It wasn't until dinner time that Xiao Jingyun and Yuan returned. Yuan skipped in, clutching a sugar-coated hawthorn on a stick. She took a bite herself, then fed Xiao Jingyun. Her eyes met mine. "Oh dear. I forgot to bring some for you." "Sister." She offered the stick to me. "Here. Have it." Her eyes sparkled with clear-cut pride and provocation. I turned my face away. I don't want things others have touched. Yuji. Xiao Jingyun suddenly stood up, slamming his teacup on the table with a clatter. "What do you mean by that?" "Cheer." Father spoke up. "It's just a string of candied hawthorn berries." His gaze fixed on me, heavy with meaning. Suddenly, I recalled father's conversation with me last night. "Cheer. Prince Jing intends for you and Wanner to enter the palace on the same day." "Cheer. Your father knows Prince Jing once promised you a lifetime of devotion to one woman. But the one in the palace. She won't survive this winter. Sooner or later, this realm will be Prince Jing's. When that day comes, can the harem truly hold only you? Curb your temper. Wanner is still your sister. She'll be there to look after you in the future. Understand?" Her nails dug into her palm, her tongue tasting the metallic sweetness of blood. "If you don't want me, then don't." Yuan flung the candied hawthorn onto the ground. "I knew it. You just looked down on me." She covered her face and ran off. "Wan." Xiao Jingyun gave chase. "Wanner." Her father followed after her. I loosened my grip. A single tear fell into the teacup. Xiao Jingyun and I weren't childhood sweethearts. He was the lofty second prince, I was the unremarkable daughter of the minister of ceremonies. Until I was 9. Our paths never crossed. That year, envoys from all nations came to pay homage. I watched as he was dragged from the imperial residence by burly khans. I chased after them. Together, we became hostages for 3 months. When the barbarians struck him, I shielded him. When they starved him, I slipped my own rations to him. When they mocked him, I held him behind me. He is His Highness, the second prince of our great Chu. Dare you harm a single hair on his head, and you'll get nothing in return. My thoughts back then were simple. My father was the minister of ceremonies. He personally orchestrated that banquet to entertain the foreign guests. Yet the second prince was abducted during the feast. If anything else had happened, my father would have borne the blame. But after that, Xiao Jingyun became inseparable from me. He demanded I accompany him at every meal, sleep by his side every night. He even insisted on taking me to the Imperial Academy. Without me, he grew restless and uneasy. He often said then, "Gigi, I wish everyone in the world would vanish, so only you and I remain." Naturally, that was impossible. There were even times when I'd suffer headaches or fevers, unable to keep him company. It was during these moments that Yuan would appear by his side. She wore my clothes, adorned herself with my jewelry, and carried my sachets, dressed to look exactly like me, easing Xiao Jingyun's restlessness. Yet he clearly couldn't bear to look at her face for even a moment. I wiped away my tears and rose. Back in my room, the table was piled high with garments and ornaments. Qingxin watched me cautiously. Auntie Li just delivered these. Father's words from last night echoed in my mind. The imperial selection? Just go through the motions. The Empress Dowager seeks someone to ward off misfortune. The Emperor won't choose you. Qingxin's eyes reddened. Miss, must you truly attend the selection? The entire capital knows you and Prince Jing are to wed in 10 days. To do this now. I smiled faintly, clutching the golden hairpin in my palm. I replied, I must go. Xiao Jingyun had taken Yuan hunting. Before leaving, he urged me to reflect on my mistakes. Upon our return, he said, you'd best apologize to Juan. Otherwise, that silver fox cloak won't be yours. My body has endured lashings for him many times, leaving me intensely sensitive to the cold in winter. Years ago, he promised to make me the warmest silver fox fur coat imaginable. But silver foxes are hard to hunt. Only if he catches one this time will that coat truly come to be. I closed the window. You are unreasonable. Xiao Jingyun swept his sleeves and stormed out. The 10th day of the 10th month, the day Xiao Jingyun and I were supposed to marry. The capital felt eerily quiet. Even the maids in my household dared not speak to me in a loud voice. I burned the marriage contract Xiao Jingyun had once given me and shredded the wedding gown I was meant to wear that day. As for the phoenix crown, I dismantled it and had Qingxin take it out. It fetched a good price. The night before the imperial selection, Xiao Jingyun still hadn't returned. Instead, he sent me a letter. All right. This noble prince is a man of honor. I shan't quibble with a mere woman like you. Guess what wonderful things Yuan and I brought you. After tomorrow's selection, wait obediently at the palace gates for me. I ignored the faint, almost invisible lipstick smudge on the paper. I burned the letter. The next day, Father saw me off at the family gate. As if fearing mishap, he fastened a jade pendant to my waist. It was the dragon and phoenix pendant Xiao Jingyun had brought when proposing marriage years ago. A keepsake from his late mother. Dragon and phoenix, symbols of auspiciousness. Gazing at the intimately entwined dragon and phoenix on the jade, I tore it off and flung it out the sedan chair window. Numerous carriages gathered at the palace gates. The current emperor, 21 years old, was the eldest son of the late emperor. He ascended the throne young, assuming full authority at 18. Yet frail and delicate. Not only was the empress's position vacant, but the entire harem remained empty. When autumn arrived, he fell gravely ill once more. Following this, the Empress Dowager issued an edict. All unmarried daughters of officials who had reached the age of coming of age were to enter the palace on the 18th day of the 10th month for the imperial selection. Thus, rumors spread among the nobility that His Majesty would not survive the coming winter. The Empress Dowager's decree was solely for the purpose of dispelling misfortune through a joyous occasion. I followed the noble maidens into the palace in quiet procession. Though they all vaguely understood the reason, the noble maidens showed no negligence. Each was resplendent, her face as radiant as a lotus blossom. Yet group after group entered, and group after group emerged. Not a single one was retained. When my turn came, my heart pounded uncontrollably. A thin sheen of sweat broke out on my back. The daughter of the Minister of Revenue. Shin, the daughter of the General of Expeditionary Forces. Du, the daughter of the Minister of Ceremonies. You. Kneel. The grand hall fell utterly silent. Breaths. Footsteps. Heartbeats. When the bright yellow boots finally came into view, the sound of hearts pounding drowned out everything else. Yet they did not pause for me. In the blink of an eye, they circled left, circled right, then, as if their task was complete, began to turn away. In that very instant, I seized the hem of the robe above the boots. I looked up and met a pair of serene, quiet eyes. Truthfully, I had seen Xiao Jingchen before, though I accompanied Xiao Jingyun to the Imperial Academy. As a woman, I was forbidden from entering the lecture halls. When the Grand Tutor taught, I waited outside. After so many days, boredom inevitably set in. Once, while daydreaming, I stumbled upon a strikingly handsome youth. His robes were rich and fine, yet he looked terribly thin. He stood alone beneath a mulberry tree. "Would you like some mulberries?" I asked him. Truthfully, I'd been coveting those berries for ages. I grew up in Yangzhou. As a child, my favorite pastime was climbing the mulberry tree in our backyard, listening to cicadas while eating mulberries and jujubes. Such bliss. Alas, after my father became a court official, he forbade me from doing so. He demanded I learn to walk with the grace of a noble lady of the capital, to sit with proper decorum. "If you want some, I'll get them for you." In no time, I plucked a handkerchief full of mulberries from the tree. After that, I often encountered him near the Imperial Academy. Sometimes we listened to birdsong together. Other times we caught cicada nymphs. I even took him fishing. When the branch speared a fish from the stream bed, the smile that spread across his lips seemed more joyful than any I'd ever seen. I always assumed he was some aristocratic young master who disdained books. I never asked his name, because I didn't want him to ask mine. At an age when I didn't even know what a marriage contract was, Xiao Jingyun had already sent his betrothal gifts to my home. He forbade me from associating with any other men. I told him, "This is our secret. You understand?" Until one day, Xiao Jingyun finished school early and encountered him alongside me. "Your Imperial Highness, what brings you here?" He grabbed my arm, forcing me to kneel. "Pay your respects to His Majesty at once." I was so startled I couldn't speak. After that, I never skipped class again. Xiao Jingchen never returned to the Imperial Academy either. Now, I clutched the hem of his dragon-embroidered robe tightly. He looked thinner and paler than 2 years ago. He regarded me with puzzlement for a moment. Then a flicker of irritation crossed his eyes. Frowning, he tried to pull his robe free. I clung to it desperately. I even knelt and edged forward a small step. "Save me," I silently pleaded. "Save me. I beg you." I knew his thoughts. The selection was the Empress Dowager's decree, not his own wish. He never intended to choose anyone as his empress. As a man facing death, he didn't want to burden anyone. But I was willing. I was willing to be his bride for good luck. Even if he didn't survive this winter, I would go and guard his tomb. For a lifetime. I don't want to marry Xiao Jingyun. How disgusting. I stared at Xiao Jingchen, tears streaming down my face. Xiao Jingchen froze. His dark pupils seemed to hold a trapped beast struggling. I tugged harder at his robes. The wound on my arm, cut by a hairpin, finally splitting open. Blood flowed down his sleeve, dripping onto the ground. Imperial physician. Xiao Jingchen's face paled instantly. He bent down and scooped me up. Zhao Si. Summoned the imperial physician. I seized the jade scepter from his hand. I won the gamble. I wiped away my tears. Xiao Jingchen held me close and turned toward the side hall. Today, there are important matters in the palace. No one may enter without summons. Xiao Jingyun and Yuan waited at the palace gate. They watched as noble ladies, each accompanied by maidservants, emerged one by one, then disappeared one by one. Xiao Jingyun glanced at the sun and clicked his tongue impatiently. Yuan rubbed her hands. Brother Yun, are you sure sister received the letter? Xiao Jingyun scoffed lightly. My people handling matters? How could there be any mistake? Is sister deliberately leaving us hanging here? Yuan pouted, muttering softly. I told you sister doesn't like me. She won't agree to let me in. So what if she refuses? Must this prince kowtow to her whims? Xiao Jingyun swept Yuan into his embrace. You're wearing my silver fox cloak. How could you still be cold? Yuan sniffed lightly. So what if I am? You wouldn't take me to the hot springs anyway. Since sister isn't here. Xiao Jingyun raised an eyebrow, glancing back toward the palace gates. Truthfully, with his status, no one would dare stop him from entering. But he simply didn't want to. He'd already taken the initiative to write her a letter, giving her a way out. Did she expect him to come crawling back to her? All these years, he'd spoiled her rotten. Was I detained by his majesty? Yuan asked again. Xiao Jingyun scoffed. Kept her? As a palace maid? Come on. Let's go soak in the hot springs. Xiao Jingyun grabbed Yuan and started walking. Whether Yushi was dawdling in the palace or had returned home early without informing him, it was nothing but her way of sulking, acting coy, making him chase after her. Once, he couldn't live without her. Now, the queen consort has been chosen. The empress has made her selection. People chattered excitedly at the palace gates. Things really have changed. Yuan murmured. Then she added, Brother Yun, why don't we go see? See what? Your sister. Perhaps? Xiao Jingyun didn't even turn his head. Now, it was Yu Shi who couldn't live without him. Without him, who in the entire capital would dare marry her? He'd wait and see how she'd come crawling back to him. The imperial physician bandaged my wounds. A palace maid brought a fresh set of clothes and helped me change. The palace attendants were all very observant. Once their tasks were done, they quickly withdrew, leaving only Xiao Jingchen and me. I stole a glance at him. Sure enough, his face was grim. A man who had ruled as emperor for 10 years. Even with his pallid, weary features, the moment his expression hardened, it became so oppressive one dared not meet his gaze. I lowered my head, fidgeting with my fingers. Did you do this to yourself? He asked. Yes. His aura grew heavier. I buried my head lower. Why? A ploy to win sympathy. To elicit pity. I suppose. I dared not utter a word. He approached with measured steps. His gaze fixed on me. After a long silence, he sighed suddenly. Does it hurt? My fingers paused mid-twist. I lifted my head. I couldn't explain why. But my nose stung. And tears truly fell. Truth is, it's been many years now. The time I spent with him was only a brief 3 months. Yet he still remembered my fear of pain. All these years later, he remains the only one. When father saw my wounds, he'd say, "A noble lady must be graceful, the character for endure carries a blade." When Xiao Jingyun saw my wounds, he'd say, "You endured whip marks back then. What are these minor scrapes and pains?" Only he would ask if I was hurt. Would bring a jar of healing ointment every time we met. Xiao Jingchen actually produced a jar of ointment and placed it beside me. I forgot to cry again. Staring blankly at him. For a moment, it felt as though time had never passed. He looked back at me. His lips pressed together. His expression stern. He sighed helplessly and turned to leave. I grabbed his sleeve. "Shall we go fishing?" Winter had long since arrived. In the capital's winter, the lake froze over. Truthfully, this was my first time ice fishing. It was bitterly cold. We were probably wearing the thickest fur robes in the palace, while the eunuch beside us was pacing anxiously. But Xiao Jingchen and I had long since developed an unspoken understanding. A single sharp glance from him sent the palace attendants scattering. I focused on baiting the hook and casting the line. The moment the line twitched, our eyes met. We retreated, jerked the rod, and reeled in. What a whopper! I barely managed to keep myself from jumping up on the ice. A faint smile brimmed in Xiao Jingchen's eyes too. Without a word, we both continued baiting and casting. Until dusk fell. I gently brushed the back of his hand. Thankfully, it was warm. I wasn't cold either, a thin sheen of sweat had even broken out on my back. I hadn't expected him to notice. His hand paused, and he lifted his gaze to meet mine. My heart skipped a beat, and I flustered, lowering my eyes. The next moment, my hand was taken. Xiao Jingchen clasped my hand firmly in his palm. "Let's go." His palm was slightly sweaty. "I'll take you to see the Empress Dowager." We returned to change our clothes. The Empress Dowager was Xiao Jingchen's birth mother, but not Xiao Jingyun's. Therefore, I had never met her before. I'd only heard Xiao Jingyun mention her. She doted on Xiao Jingchen immensely. Treated him like a precious treasure. Afraid he might break if held too tightly, or melt if held too gently. She worried herself sick over his health. So I was actually a bit anxious. Afraid she might scold me. Unexpectedly, she was very kind. She must have heard about me from the palace attendants earlier, for she showed no surprise upon seeing me. She even invited me to stay for supper, scooping fish soup for me. She praised the fish I caught as exceptionally fresh. Only when Xiao Jingchen was summoned to the imperial study by court officials did her smile fade, revealing weariness. "Do you truly wish to marry Chinner?" she asked me. I immediately knelt. "This humble maiden does." "Do you know?" She paused. "The divine physician declared." I nodded. "This humble maiden is aware." The divine physician declared that Xiao Jingchen has less than 2 months to live. "You won't marry Prince Jing?" I shook my head. "Prince Jing has already torn up our marriage contract. This humble maiden and he are no longer bound." "Do you know Prince Jin has no heir?" "If this servant knows. Xiao Jingchen has no heir and no other brothers. Should he pass, Xiao Jingyun will ascend the throne. This servant also knows, consorts without heirs either shave their heads for monastic life, guard tombs for half their days, or drink poison to follow their lord in death. But this servant is willing." I clasped the Empress Dowager's hand. "Your Majesty, whether I accompany you in a life of prayer and solitude, guard the Emperor's tomb, or sacrifice myself in death, I accept it all." The Empress Dowager's eyes suddenly filled with tears. Good. Truly a good girl. She patted my hand gently. Then, whatever Chinner wishes to do, you shall accompany him. In all matters. His happiness is paramount. Xiao Jingchen would certainly be happy. I understand his preferences quite well. During those 3 months, I knew not he was the emperor, nor did he know my true identity. He shared everything with me. I knew he disliked those stilted, obscure texts, preferring thrilling and bizarre storybooks. I knew he disliked bland, insipid meals, craving fiery spices that brought tears to the eyes. I also knew he loved scaling walls to sneak out and play. By day, while he attended court, I'd go to the library to find him stories. While he handled state affairs, I'd prepare his meals in the imperial kitchen. At night, we'd slip out of the palace together. Often, I forgot he was a frail patient. When he wasn't ill, aside from his pallor, he truly seemed no different from anyone else, except that he would cough up blood morning and night. The palace maid who served me would flatter me. Ever since your highness arrived, His Majesty has been coughing up much less blood. Truthfully, Xiao Jingchen and I hadn't yet formally wed. Though it was a marriage to ward off misfortune, an imperial union still required at least 10 days or half a month of preparation. However hasty. But I never returned home. One day outside the palace, I unexpectedly encountered my father. He stared at Xiao Jingchen and me with utter shock. Anger, fear, confusion, heartbreak, all these emotions played vividly across his face. I heard he sought Xiao Jingchen several times, demanding to see me. Each time, Xiao Jingchen refused. I knew why he wanted to see me. He likely just wanted to berate me. Though Prince Jing is to marry Wanner on the same day as you, you are the true consort. You are destined to be the proper empress. To forsake such glorious honor and a splendid future, insisting on marrying a dying man, have you lost your mind? Alas! With the emperor present, no matter how much he trembled with rage, he dared not utter a single word. He could only bow from afar before departing gloomily. In my leisure hours, I sometimes read storybooks. These tales often featured stories of marrying for good fortune, like the wealthy young master who lay comatose for years, only to awaken after marrying a virtuous wife, or the aristocratic heir, long stricken with illness, who regained his vigor after marrying a beautiful bride, performing 7 times in a single night. Why, then, did such magic fail to work for me after entering the palace? The little palace maid tried to flatter me again. Your Highness. I heard from the matrons in the Empress Dowager's quarters that she consulted the master at Fazhai Temple. It's true. The master originally said His Majesty's fate was nearing its end, with no other solution. But just 3 months ago, he suddenly declared that a miraculous star had descended from the heavens. Marrying a wife to ward off misfortune might bring a miracle. A miraculous star. I stood before the mirror, scrutinizing myself over and over. Yet I couldn't see any trace of such a star in my appearance. Sigh. 7 days later, the date for my marriage to Xiao Jingchen was finally set. It was scheduled for a month later. The master had said to marry a wife to ward off misfortune. The scripts for such auspicious marriages always began with the bride entering the household. And yet, we had to wait another month? That day, I couldn't bear waiting in the harem any longer and stormed off to the Hall of Diligent Governance. Halfway there, I bumped into Xiao Jingyun, who was affectionately embracing Yuan. Gigi? Xiao Jingyun seemed quite surprised to see me here. He instinctively released Yuan and started to approach me. The next instant, remembering something, he pulled Yuan back into his embrace. Yuan and I just returned to the capital. We saw His Majesty and are heading back. He tilted his chin up with a smile. What? Couldn't wait even this short while? Had to come looking for me in the palace? My mind was filled with how to argue with Xiao Jingchen. For a moment, I couldn't grasp the meaning behind his words. But I couldn't be bothered to figure it out. I turned and headed straight for the Hall of Diligent Governance. Yu Ji! Xiao Jingyun bellowed. I frowned and turned around. Shouting a subject's given name in public like this. I shot him a cold glance. Your Highness. Please conduct yourself with dignity. Yu Ji! Xiao Jingyun gritted his teeth. You still show no remorse. Do you know why I came to the palace today? I glanced at Yuan, who stood beside him. Her smile smug. Who cares about them? I turned away again. This prince is giving you one final chance. Turn around now. Come here. Apologize. Otherwise, I shall report to His Majesty that you've grown arrogant from favor, unruly and insolent. I shall demote you to a concubine. My footsteps halted. I finally understood what he meant. I'd heard he'd returned from hunting and taken Yuan to the hot springs. Had he become so lost in their love that he ignored even the capital's news? I turned back. Xiao Jingyun visibly relaxed, suppressing the smile tugging at his lips. He extended his hand. Come here. Just as I was about to speak, a young palace maid arrived, panting heavily. She curtsied before me. Your Highness. Xiao Jingyun's expression froze in an instant. All the way to the Hall of Diligent Governance. I watched as Xiao Jingchen took my hand. Xiao Jingyun seemed utterly lost in the moment. He stared at me blankly, his mouth opening and closing, yet not a single sound escaped. Yuan, however, remained perfectly composed. She curtsied gracefully, then tugged at Xiao Jingyun's sleeve. Xiao Jingyun looked at her blankly, then at Xiao Jingchen, then at me grinding ink for Xiao Jingchen. What brings the Prince of Jing and his family here? A decade as emperor had taught Xiao Jingchen to remain utterly impassive. He continued reviewing memorials without lifting his eyelids. Xiao Jingyun still hadn't remembered to bow. He glanced at me, then looked at Xiao Jingchen. Your Majesty. The prince brings his daughter to offer early congratulations on the emperor and my elder sister's new joy. Awan has long been separated from her sister and misses her dearly. Yuan calmly took over the conversation. When her gaze swept over me, a flicker of schadenfreude flickered in her eyes. Xiao Jingchen lifted his head. She immediately suppressed that fleeting expression. Kneel and take your leave. Xiao Jingchen gave them both a faint, dismissive glance. Yuan immediately knelt. Xiao Jingyun clenched his fists. Unmoving. Your Highness. Yuan murmured. Veins bulged on Xiao Jingyun's forehead as his eyes, fixed on me, suddenly flushed crimson. Your Highness. He knelt before us both. I beg your leave. He sprang to his feet and strode out. Yuan hurried after him. I lowered my gaze. Xiao Jingchen squeezed my hand. We hadn't managed to discuss the wedding date after all. No sooner had Xiao Jingyun left than several ministers arrived. I had no choice but to withdraw. That afternoon, the Empress Dowager sent messengers bearing the marriage contract for Xiao Jingchen and me. The date and hour were already set. Even the Empress Dowager had given her consent. Well, if it made him happy. So I resolved to focus on making Xiao Jingchen happy. I'd read about brides in fortune-seeking marriages who always did something unexpected, like preparing meals and mistaking salt for sugar, or warming the bed for her unconscious husband, only to kick him out of bed. I decided to follow their example. Every day, I sent Xiao Jingchen sweets. I even carried a quilt to his Qingqian palace. The sweets were all given away to the palace attendants. As for the quilt, he just couldn't bring himself to give it away. We lay there together for days. Then, one day, inspiration struck. Could the key to a lucky marriage lie in sharing a bed? Yu Ji. Xiao Jingchen snapped my reverie with gritted teeth. It's true. I tried to persuade him. Even terminally ill young masters in storybooks can perform multiple times in bed. Perhaps it's precisely because of yin-yang harmony. Zhao Si. Xiao Jingchen bellowed outward. Burn every storybook in Fengming Palace for me. Are you incapable? The storybooks also said. You can't say a man is inadequate. Mention those 2 words, and dead men would rise from their graves. See? It didn't deceive me. Xiao Jingchen, who'd been 8 zheng away moments ago, flipped over and pinned me beneath him. You. His body was burning hot. I blinked, staring at him. His gaze deepened. His Adam's apple bobbed repeatedly. Finally, he gritted his teeth. He grabbed the quilt and left. None of these tricks worked. I was truly troubled. What troubled me more was Xiao Jingyun's unusual behavior, frequent visits to the palace. I practically ran into him every day. He didn't act like he was about to explode. Like that day in the imperial study. He even bowed to me. But the moment he lifted his head, a cold snort escaped him. I couldn't be bothered to decipher the meaning behind it. Whenever I saw him, I simply took a detour. Yet I never imagined the turning point would come from him. It was a snowy day. 7 days remained until my wedding to Xiao Jingchen. Early that morning, I discovered silver notes, marriage certificates, and several sets of new household registers tucked beneath Xiao Jingchen's pillow. He made no attempt to conceal it. On our wedding day, Fengyi Palace burned. The empress perished in the flames. From that day forward, the world knew no more of Yu Ji. I stared at him in stunned silence, utterly unprepared for the scheme he'd hatched. Ji. He addressed me with such intimacy for the first time, whether in an imperial tomb or an ancient temple. This was never meant to be your final resting place. You should be a free and joyful bird, soaring through boundless skies and seas, catching fish and pecking at fruit. Live out the rest of my life for me. Will you? I didn't want to cry in front of him, but the tears wouldn't stop. I knew it. They were deceiving me. Xiao Jingchen coughed up blood daily, the amount only increasing. What celestial star descending from the heavens? What marrying a wife to ward off misfortune? It was all a lie. Xiao Jingchen softened his voice to coax me, painting a blueprint of leaving the palace. Yet I only cried harder. When Xiao Jingyun entered, this was the scene he witnessed. I lay on Xiao Jingchen's imperial bed, disheveled, my shoulders heaving. Xiao Jingchen hadn't even put on his outer robe. He sat beside me, leaning slightly, calling me Gigi in a soft, gentle voice. He must have misunderstood something. You too. He quickly turned away. His words jumbled. Then he walked off, his steps disordered. That evening, Xiao Jingchen was detained in the Hall of Diligent Governance by several ministers. Xiao Jingyun stormed into Qingqian Palace. Ji, blame me for protecting you too well. So well that you cannot discern the situation before your eyes. He stood with one hand behind his back, looking down on me from above. Look clearly. Whose palace will this imperial palace truly be? I surveyed the empty Qingqian Palace. It was hardly surprising. Xiao Jingchen had been frail since childhood. Years ago, when he refused to take an empress and left the harem vacant, astute observers had already read the signs. This throne would inevitably belong to Xiao Jingyun. Add to that the divine physician's prophecy this year and Xiao Jingchen's increasing frailty. Ministers had long since chosen their sides. To put it bluntly, Xiao Jingyun, along with countless others within and beyond these palace walls, awaits only Xiao Jingchen's death. So what? I stared coldly at Xiao Jingyun. Gigi. Xiao Jingyun suddenly softened his stance. It's merely about taking a secondary consort. Why must things between us escalate to this point? I let out a laugh. If you're dissatisfied, just make her a concubine's daughter. Fine? When the harem is full someday, why should you care about one more sister? Worst case, if she displeases you, banish her to the cold palace? Exile her to the eternal alley? Once you become empress, the entire harem will be under your command. Isn't that good enough? I pulled my hand free from his grasp. Your Highness may marry whomever you please without consulting me. I rose. If your Highness cannot wait and wishes to bear the charge of trespassing in the palace and disrespecting the imperial sister-in-law, you may remain here. Yu Ji. I turned. The 18th day of the 12th lunar month. Xiao Jingyun suddenly let out a cold laugh. Your empress didn't last 20 days. Are you certain you wish to choose Xiao Jingchen? It was precisely this single sentence. The 18th day of the 12th lunar month. Everyone dared only whisper in private, His Majesty would not survive this winter. How could he be so certain Xiao Jingchen would collapse on the 18th day of the 12th lunar month? That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. I felt as though I had overlooked something crucial. In my drowsy state, one dream followed another. One moment, a young palace maid said. The master originally said the emperor's fate was nearing its end. And there was no other way. Just 3 months ago, he suddenly declared a miraculous star had descended from heaven. Marrying a wife to ward off misfortune might bring a miracle. Then Xiao Jingyun sneered with certainty. On the 18th day of the 12th lunar month, your empress will not last 20 days. Finally, I even dreamt of Yuan. After waking from her drowning, she seemed like a different person. She defiantly shouted at Xiao Jingyun. This lifetime, I'd rather die than love you again. I jolted awake from the dream. I understood. I understood. The miraculous star from the heavens. That star was never me, it was Yuan. I returned home. In all my glory. Head held high. The first thing I did upon returning was go to Yuan's courtyard. Xiao Jingyun had promised to take her as a secondary consort. Her courtyard was piled high with wedding preparations. Seeing me, her expression stiffened, then softened into a light smile. Oh my! Did my elder sister actually find time to return? I sat down, removed my cloak, exposing the crimson mark upon my neck. My! It's rather warm in your room this winter. Little sister. Yuan stared at me, her gaze piercing enough to bore holes through me. Then she smiled again. My sister and His Majesty are truly devoted to each other. I looked at her blankly. Didn't you know the prince rushed to Qingqian Palace to find me last night? TSK. I tugged at my collar. The prince is so rude. Yuan couldn't keep up the act anymore. Yu Ji. What do you mean? Didn't I learn it all from you? Little sister? I raised my eyebrows. You don't seriously think I married His Majesty because I gave up? Do you? Brother dies. Younger brother marries. I stood up, staring at her. Ever heard of it? You're full of shit. Yuan exploded. Brother Yun would never like a slut like you. Don't you know what men like? Men. They all crave what they can't have. Having lived 2 lifetimes, Yuan probably understood this better than I did. Yes. Yuan had been reborn. I should have realized sooner. The first time she saw me after falling into the water, she panicked, knelt, and called me Your Majesty the Empress. Then she suddenly rejected and distanced herself from Xiao Jingyun, as if she never wanted to see him again. Her calm composure when facing Xiao Jingchen, her schadenfreude when she saw I was marrying him, and the 18th day of the 12th lunar month. She had experienced it once before, urging Xiao Jingyun to wait patiently. I slowly donned my cloak, preparing to depart. Oh, right. Before leaving, I kindly reminded her. Yesterday, the prince even told me that if I disliked you, taking you as a concubine would be acceptable. After all, I smiled. Once I become empress, Whether I banish you to the cold palace or send you to the eternal alley, wouldn't that be entirely up to me? Yuan's face turned deathly pale. I believe Yuan won't disappoint me. After all, this younger sister of mine has always been foolish. Why do I despise her? Because she was the one who led away those barbarians who kidnapped Xiao Jingyun back then. All for a candy she'd never even seen before. It cost me a month of living worse than death. And from that day on, I became Xiao Jingyun's possession. But I never expected to bump into Xiao Jingyun at the gate. He seemed to have overheard most of our conversation, his face lighting up with surprise. Gee. I knew it. Wait for me. Wait for him? Hardly. I gave him a smile and walked away. But Xiao Jingyun played along. The very next day, he withdrew the betrothal gifts, insisting the formal wedding ceremony be downgraded to a concubine-taking ceremony. Yuan had a huge fight with him. The commotion was so loud, even my courtyard could hear it. I didn't return to the palace. First, the wedding date was approaching, and I was supposed to depart from my natal home anyway. Second, if I went back to the palace, how could I use Xiao Jingyun to provoke Yuan? Xiao Jingyun came to fawn over me every single day. I barred him from entering my courtyard, so he lingered outside, offering gifts and pouring out his affections. No one paid him any mind. My sole concern was Yuan's movements. Alas, as a bride-to-be, my access to information was limited. It wasn't until the night before the wedding that Xiao Jingchen arrived. Did Yuan seek you out? The moment I saw him, I blurted out the question. In my mind, since Yuan had lived 2 lifetimes, she must know many secrets of heaven. I deliberately provoked her to understand her. She couldn't bear to see me happy, rather than let me become Xiao Jingyun's empress, oppressing and mocking her in the future. She probably would rather Xiao Jingchen lived forever. To watch me love him without being able to have him. Watch me fail miserably. Perhaps she knows how to cure Xiao Jingchen's illness? This was my only interpretation of the miraculous star descending from the heavens. Tomorrow, you don't plan to leave the capital? Xiao Jingchen didn't answer my question. I froze. I'd completely forgotten about this matter. I'm not leaving. My expression darkened. Yuji. Xiao Jingchen suddenly seized my hand. Do you love him that much? He's fickle and unfaithful, utterly unsuitable. I paved so many paths for you, yet you chose none but to return to him? Xiao Jingchen stepped closer, pinning me against the door frame. He'd scaled the wall, dressed in night attire. After just a few days apart, he looked even thinner, his pallor deepening. Only a hint of red lingered at the corners of his eyes. He appeared wronged and pitiable. Brother dies. Younger brother marries. He chuckled softly. I know everything now. Yuan went to see her. So this is what makes you happy. Xiao Jingchen chuckled again, releasing me. Very well. He turned away. Tomorrow, I shall grant your wish. No. I smiled. Not because I'm glad he's dying. Tomorrow, you needn't come to the palace. I'll send someone. No. Listen to me. It's unnecessary. I've already made arrangements. Coming tonight was merely. Let me speak first. Enough. Xiao Jingchen. I grabbed his hand and pinned him against the wall in one swift motion. Caught off guard by the sudden closeness, Xiao Jingchen froze. I stared at his tightly pursed lips. I couldn't help myself. Standing on tiptoe, I planted a kiss on them. Are you going to let me speak? Another kiss. Are you going to let me speak? One more kiss. Are you going to let me speak? Huh? A flush spread across Xiao Jingchen's pale face like spring begonia blooms. Only then did it dawn on me. Blinking, I grabbed his sleeve and took 2 steps back. Xiao Jingchen's expression darkened. He grabbed the back of my head and kissed me hard. Xiao Jingchen really is such a fool. So Yuan hadn't come to him with a way to save his life. Instead, she'd bitterly accused me. Then claimed Xiao Jingyan planned to rebel on our wedding day. He'd actually intended to grant me my wish. If I insisted on choosing Xiao Jingyun, he'd withdraw without a fight. What's the point of fighting over such things when death is imminent? I cupped his face. Xiao Jingchen, trust me just this once. Tomorrow, there will definitely be a way out. Now, sitting in the imperial carriage, my heart pounded wildly. Ji, Xiao Jingyun, Xiao Jingchen's only younger brother, came to escort the bride. He rode his horse alongside my carriage. His eyes sparkled. Today, I'll give you a surprise. To prove my sincerity. I couldn't be bothered to placate him. I pretended not to hear. He sighed. Ji, you really must change this temper of yours. Otherwise, how will you help the emperor? Ahem. Help me manage the harem in the future? I closed my eyes to prevent my eyes from rolling so hard they'd fly out. Ji, wait for me. At the palace gates. He left those words behind and galloped away. Suddenly, I recalled that month in the foreign camp. He had once treated me with genuine affection. He shed tears for me. He lay awake at night for me. Each time he slipped out to find herbs for me, he'd say, Ji, wait for me. Yet human sincerity, it shifts in the blink of an eye. Holding Xiao Jingchen's hand, I paid homage to heaven and honored our ancestors. As we received the people's homage, sudden battle cries shook the heavens. Xiao Jingchen pushed me into the golden hall. It all unfolded within half an hour. Though Xiao Jingyun had long gathered supporters, Xiao Jingchen had ruled for 10 years. He was thoroughly prepared. When I emerged, Xiao Jingyun was still desperately resisting. He seemed unable to comprehend his swift defeat. The instant he saw me, he charged forward with all his strength. Ji, come with me. I hid behind Xiao Jingchen. 2 broadswords pressed against Xiao Jingyun's neck. The blood on Xiao Jingyun's face was mingled with utter bewilderment. The next moment brought something even more bewildering. Yuan rushed over and knelt directly before him. Your Majesty. Your Majesty promised me you would spare Prince Wan's life. It was you. Xiao Jingyun realized with a jolt. You wretch. You betrayed me. You abandoned me first. Yuan glared at him with hatred. If I let you succeed, wouldn't that let you 2 adulterers hurt me for a lifetime? Xiao Jingchen clearly had no desire to listen to their bickering. He waved his hand, signaling for them to be dragged away. Wait! I tugged at his sleeve. My heart pounded wildly. Is that it? There must be more? Sure enough. Yuan bowed her head. Your Majesty, this servant has one more matter. Speak. Your servant possesses a remedy to cure your Majesty's ailment. Buzz. Sound vanished from my ears. I won the bet. I won again. If successful, I beg your Majesty, Yuan flashed me a triumphant smile, to bestow upon your servant the title of princess. Grant 3,000 households as her fiefdom, and decree that the disgraced Xiao clan minister become her husband. In this lifetime, you may have no wife but me. Xiao Jingchen frowned, clearly doubting her words. I tugged at his sleeve repeatedly. Agree. Agree. Who cares about princesses or wives? Just agree first. Xiao Jingchen raised his hand. Granted. Yuan presented a child. Not yet 10 years old. He couldn't even speak the Central Plains dialect. She insisted he was the last descendant of the witchcraft clan, the only one who could cure His Majesty's affliction. Truthfully, the Empress Dowager had tried everything in her youth. Seeking doctors, inquiring about poisons, praying to gods, worshipping Buddhas. She had even heard of witchcraft. But the witchcraft clan had been wiped out. Where could she find someone to diagnose the illness? Looking at the child, she harbored doubts. Yet she had no choice but to take a chance. Unexpectedly, the child began babbling incoherently, muttering this and that. And from Xiao Jingchen's mouth, a poisonous insect as large as a centipede was indeed drawn out. The Empress Dowager wept bitterly. Back then, the imperial harem was a treacherous place. She truly had no idea who could be so heartless to inflict such a poisonous curse on such a young child. I didn't cry. I was still waiting for the 18th day of the 12th lunar month. Xiao Jingchen vomited blood for 2 more days. After that, he improved day by day. His complexion grew rosy. He ate more, and not a single drop of blood came up. On the 18th day of the 12th lunar month, I watched him closely all day. Very good. Everything was fine. Only then did I truly believe Xiao Jingchen would not suddenly fall ill and die again. Behind his back, I secretly wiped away tears. Xiao Jingchen had indeed granted Yuan the title of princess. Princess of the Southwest Commandery. He permitted her to take Xiao Jingyun away from the capital. On the day they left the capital, I went to see them off. Yuan knew full well that Xiao Jingchen and I hadn't been driven apart by her schemes. Upon seeing me, she turned her face away. I insisted on standing before her, demanding she perform the kneeling ritual before me. Then I approached Xiao Jingyun, still branded a traitor. He sat huddled in his prison cart. His eyes immediately filled with tears when he saw me. Why? He asked me. Why couldn't you give me one chance? I looked down at him from above. I gave you one chance. After understanding what a marriage contract truly meant, after meeting Xiao Jingchen, I convinced myself over and over I would be Xiao Jingyun's wife. I shouldn't let brothers turn against each other. Xiao Jingyun needed me too. It was you who let go of me first. Xiao Jingyun choked. His lips trembled, but no words came out. I turned and walked away. Later, I often heard news about this couple. They became notorious figures in Southwest County. Their days were filled with either arguing or fighting. Rumor had it they once brawled from one end of the street to the other. One wailed, "I've loved you for 2 lifetimes. What's wrong with loving me just once?" The other screamed, "You've ruined my entire life." Both ended up breaking mirrors. Some said Xiao Jingyun's bipolar disorder had flared up again. One moment he'd rage like a storm. The next he'd cower trembling in the wardrobe. Then threatened to leap into the river or off the city walls. Each day brought a new spectacle. As for Yuan, she met every storm with calm, never once abandoning him. Ah, this magnificent love. The following spring, I was with child. On the day the pregnancy was confirmed, Xiao Jingchen was debating fiercely with the ministers in court. Well, debating fiercely might be a slight exaggeration. After all, he only spoke twice. The court officials strongly urged him to hold another imperial selection to replenish the harem. He sighed, then sighed again. I have been frail since childhood. He said, my heart desires it, but my strength fails me. Would it not be better for you, my minister, to take my place? I pounded my waist, rolling my eyes skyward. Fortunately, with the imperial physician's words, he likely had the will but could no longer act. After becoming pregnant, days suddenly stretched out endlessly. Each day was spent eating and sleeping and eating, with dreams especially frequent. One day, I even dreamt of Xiao Jingyun. In the dream, he was the emperor, and I was the empress. Yuan was there too. She clung to Xiao Jingyun as she always had, but he never spared her a glance. Finally, in despair, she ran to the city wall. Xiao Jingyun, in my next life, I will never love you again. She leapt. After Yuan's death, Xiao Jingyun suddenly went mad. He tormented me day after day. It's all your fault. Because you despised Awan. I kept rejecting her. You should have gone to keep her company in death. I woke up drenched in cold sweat. Xiao Jingchen turned sharply, having nightmares? He pulled me into his arms, kissed my forehead, and soothed me with gentle pats on my back. I drifted back to sleep. Then, I had another dream. In the dream, it seemed to be last winter. News suddenly spread through the palace. Xiao Jingchen was holding a selection of consorts. Everyone was whispering that the current emperor wouldn't survive the winter. This winter. I counted the days on my fingers again and again, just 3 months. Cold sweat soaked through layer after layer of my back. Before my eyes remained the boy's smile, clear as day even after all these years. I went to find Xiao Jingyun. I wanted him to take me into the palace. I wanted to see Xiao Jingchen. Even just a glimpse from afar would suffice. But time and again, Xiao Jingyun accompanied Yuan out on the streets. Xiao Jingyun took Yuan to release lanterns. Xiao Jingyun wanted to change our wedding date so Yuan could enter the palace on the same day as me. I didn't actually argue with him. I only calmly reminded him that the marriage contract was set years ago, with the date written right there. Xiao Jingyun frowned. In that instant, my heart raced so fast. I said, You want to destroy the marriage contract? He shot me an impatient glance. So be it. It's just a marriage contract, tear it up and rewrite it. The paper fluttered down like snowflakes. Outside the door, footsteps hurried away. Beyond the window, the autumn wind scattered morning dew from the fallen leaves. Tick-tock. I braced myself against the tabletop. Relieved. I collapsed onto the floor. The end.